Guys, I mean...
What were you saying?
I don't know.
What's he talking
When the camera's not on us, we're just...
Do you know if the microphones are on you? My wife's going to be sitting there watching the show. I can't hear you. They're mumbling.
I was taking notes on what you were saying.
Okay, and?
We're doing an editorial on the year of closures.
No, we're on to the third topic now.
What's that?
The levy.
Oh.
Okay, now this is an interesting topic. Let me set it up for just a minute. We have a long history of funding our youth activities levy in this town. And that levy is coming up, and yet we've seen some legal maneuvering that says dedicated funding towards activities may not be legal. And so what they're trying to go around is to just create a levy of general funding to replace it. Great. The two changes from what I see, and again, I'm not an expert on this, but just from what I've been reading, the one is that they're going to tax a wider area. Rather than just city residents, they'll get the whole school district, which will bring in some of those outlying counties, let them help pay the bill. Sorry for them, but there you go. And if they're in the school district, that probably makes a lot of sense. But then the second is that the funds are no longer dedicated funds to youth activities. That is a big change that has not, people aren't getting it. And here, did you watch Mr. Holland's Opus? That's all I got to tell you. If you watch the show, you know that for 20, 30 years, public education has been underfunding its activities. It always comes down to reading, writing, and arithmetic and sports. And what ends up happening, people say, well, I got to put the money into this. But what it goes to is overhead, administration, and the activities, the things that anybody that's taught on a campus or been on a campus knows, that's the heartbeat of a campus, gets underfunded. And this levy worries me because there's no contract to make sure that it continues to fund the youth activities. And what we could see is more money being funneled into the giant budget of the school board and less into the youth activities. And that's what worries me. I don't know what the solution is, but people got to start talking about it.
I think if there was a way for people to say, we want it to be the same as the levy, basically.
That would win. We know that would win. But they can't. Now, here's what I want to say. Here's another inspiration. I don't know if it can be done or not. You can't designate the funding, but why can't you have the school board hold a vote before the thing that says this is how the funds will be used before the vote is passed?
We promise.
Vote.
Yeah.
Then they would have to at least hold another vote, change the budget, and be accountable to voters of why they're changing the contract that they made before the vote.
I don't think the school board would steal the money.
No, I don't think it would steal the money, but historically, where does the money end up? It ends up with the people who have the power to make the decision, and that's the administration, the high top running of the school, as opposed to youth. The reason there's a youth activity levies in the first place is because 20 years ago, sports used to be free. You used to be able to play in Little League, and you used to be able to go into your school systems. When I was in 7th grade, we could play football in our school. How many 7th graders still have football nowadays? You can't do it. We had wrestling, we had different sports you could play for free. Even back then, we were starting bake sales and Campbell labels to keep our... Now, you got to pay fees. What if you have 3 kids and they're all athletic and they all play 3 sports? You're going to be hitting families that are already being paid this levy tax. Guarantee you there's going to be higher and higher sports fees, uniform fees, more fundraisers. You're going to see the sports that don't pay, that aren't football, being cut. You're going to see, just like we're seeing with the pool, you're not going to have a water polo team because the money's not going to be there.
Well, wouldn't the public then have some sort of outcry if the money that was allocated for those activities is being allocated somewhere else?
Public, again, I go back to Mr. Holland's Opus. It's not a new thing. Arts, education, or arts, sports, extracurricular activities, those things have been cut by school boards across the country for the better part of 30 years. What makes us think this money that's no longer dedicated to that is suddenly going to stay there? I think it's a bad contract. I think unless there's a dedicated source in some way that the voters have to have a way of hold their school board accountable, it's going to be too easy to see. Not tomorrow, not that the levy's passed, all the funds are being cut, but a siphoning off, and the youth activities will suffer. And the bottom line is kids that need those kinds of things to be in school, and they won't be able to. I've talked for most of this segment. I've said my point. You guys hammer away.
Well, so what would you like? You're saying put something in place that would hold people to this ideal. Otherwise, you would advocate against the levy.
I'm saying I'm highly uncomfortable with the levy as written. I'm highly uncomfortable throwing enthusiastic support behind the levy as written because I don't know that the money will go to what it says it's going to go to.
Isn't the levy written the way it is in order to get around the legal restrictions that says if you designate this money specifically for something, then that makes it illegal?
Or is it a wolf in sheep's clothing?
We've been told, well, certainly the
People
Eugene.
think they're voting for the levy they've been voting for the last 20 years, and now it's actually a different kind of
Here's
levy.
the point. If there's no reason to change it, if the funding is going to stay the same, then say that. Say it in a meeting ahead of time. Yeah, because illegally we have to do this. We have to change the wording of this levy, but it will still go towards these funds that it's funded for the last 20 years.
And since
Make
you're
that
not
contract.
seeing that, maybe you're imagining that they're
I'm not imagining it. I'm
salivating
saying they're
over
not
this.
saying it. And why would they? Because once the money's in place, then they're free to come with a budget, a big complicated budget, and suddenly, next thing you know, what happened to that program? What happened to that program? Oh, there's a $100 fee per sports or a $200 fee per sports. Or no new uniforms.
Let's make this assumption. Then let's say they're not saying it because the truth is that it's not going to just go to the youth activities levy. They're going to get a certain amount of money that's above and beyond what they were getting with the youth activities levy, and they do intend to use it for other budgetary measures. What if that is the case? Would you still support it?
It still seems better than nothing.
No, not if it's just feeding the beast.
Okay.